There you go.
I think Ireland are playing China. Is that I have a second or first day? I can't remember. It's going to be some showdown as I show them all the Irish team your videos. It's going to be class.
Welcome to another video of the vodcast of the Around the World series. We are joined with Ireland Touch Football. How you going, guys? Thanks for being here.
Going good, Tom. No problem, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, it's good. So do you guys want to introduce yourself? Just tell us a bit about yourself, what you're doing with Ireland Touch Football.
John, do you want to go first, man?
No problem, Jeff. I'd be delighted to. I'm John Ennis, and I've been involved in touch in Ireland since about 2015. My main background has been with the Ireland Men's Open team, and I've played with them since my first tournament was 2016, the Jersey European Championships, and I've played with them consistently until last year. So we got to the final in Vichy, and I've now transitioned over, thankfully, to the men's 30s setup, which is much more suitable for me in terms of age bracket, and I'm looking forward to that. And Tom, thank you very much for having us on, but also I owe you some thanks because I really enjoy your breakdown videos on YouTube, and when you broke down our match against England, you chose the match that I think we drew it or lost by 1, and you chose that one over the final where we got walloped. So I really appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to help where I can. Whether it was an accident or not, I'm not going to say, but I'm glad it came out well.
And then my name is Pearson Evans. Most of the lads will call me JPEG. I've been involved in touch since 2016, probably a year after John, actually. I've mostly been involved with either training with the Men's Open or my local club, which is all Wesley Touch. I've played once or twice with the Men's Open team at the Permish. But mainly I've just been doing club stuff and traveling around Europe to do competitions, to NTS and anything I can get my hands on, really. And I'll be mixed open coach for this World Cup. Mixed open coach.
And we were just talking before this video officially started that you're coaching Ireland in the same pool as the team that I'm coaching, and we're going to be versing each other. Sorry, I'm just bringing
now we see why you had us on, Tom.
Sorry?
now we can see why you've asked us on here. It's all
I was going to have a live chat with China going.
I know that's a bit of fun getting to see at the World Cup and coach a team against you. I'll be showing them every video you've ever made. We'll be preparing deep into the YouTube analytics. We will be, but that's going to be a great opportunity. Can't wait.
Well, I've actually spoke to a couple of the guys, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to." One of the YouTube videos has got what we're doing in it, and it's like, don't worry, it's fine. You can know the exact playbook of another team, and sometimes it doesn't even matter in touch football.
Yeah, touch is a strange game like that. Because like, how many moves are there actually in touch? Like, how many variations of things? You can't know every move. You're not going to know every boxing pattern. You're never going to know what a team's going to be full of doing. But yeah, you can just kind of know. It's about who executes better at the end of the day, really.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking I was running out of content for breakdowns, and out of nowhere, I just had some time on the lounge, and I just come up with 5 ideas on the spot. So there's 5 new videos that I've just scheduled tonight that I thought of in like 10 minutes. So there's I don't know when I'm going to run out of content, but it doesn't seem like it's anytime soon. So there's plenty of whether it's moves, like you said, box patterns, defensive policies. It's just never seems to end, and every time it looks like ending, someone invents a new one. So we'll get to the question that I normally ask people. We'll do it now. Is what game are you looking forward to playing at the World Cup the most? This might be an answer that's not Australia.
For me, it's going to be Australia. And the reason is I'm going to get to go up to Zach, big old booze, tell him we're going to go full noise against them, that we've got some special tricks against him, that then he needs to pick our pocket a bunch. Honestly, I'm looking forward to games against China. I'm looking forward to a game against Italy. I refereed their national comp last year, and it'll be interesting to see how they've developed. They've got some sensational players, and it's going to be a really interesting contest. China and America also going to be really interesting battles in the mixed open, because we've had very little exposure to what China can do, and we've got some idea of what the American teams are about. We have one of the American women's open players at my local club, and that's going to be a really interesting
awesome
game, because we've got a great pool, don't we, have, Tom?
Oh, I reckon it's the toughest pool, to be honest. A couple of people say, "Oh, it's a good pool," and I'm like, "Oh, I don't think so. I reckon if any pool's good, it's probably Pool C, which is Guernsey, Lebanon, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, Portugal, Samoa, and Wales. I reckon that's the pool I'd prefer to be in." I'd be happy to tell the Australian Mixed Open, a couple of my friends in that team, that what you just said about bringing the smoke, but they're probably all in bed at the moment or just getting ready for bed. So I'll make sure to tell them in the morning. John, what about you? You're playing 30s, you said?
Yeah, I moved to 30s this year. I know it's a bit of a cliche answer, but I've actually never played Australia. So,
okay.
Second World Cup, we got New Zealand in our men's open pool last time. And I have played in Australia, but I've never played against them. So I am really excited about that fixture. Really looking forward to it.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the cookies in there. Always enjoy playing against England. Big grudge match. And for years we were kind of very much their inferior, but I think we've narrowed that gap, or certainly equaled it over the last 4 or 5 years. So I really enjoy those hitouts, because I would know quite a lot of them, and they now know us. So it's always a ding dong battle against England. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
that's good. That would be a very good battle. I'm guessing that you've had a lot of finals appearances against one another in European championships.
John. Sorry about that. Can barely
the first time I try to say the full name of it, the Euros. I'm just going to stick with Euros for the rest of my life.
Yeah, we played them. So I've played them in, let me see, 2 European finals. I've played them in a permit semi-final. I've played them twice at AIS, which would be our version of kind of Trans-Tasman. And then Jamie alluded to the club that we both play for, which is Old Wesley. We go over to UK to partake in the UK Club Championships. So we won that the 2 years previously, 2 years in a row, and we lost in the final this year by 1 score to London Scorpions. And a lot of the Scorpions team would be the England international players. So there's a level of familiarity there that probably doesn't exist with most teams.
Yeah. Okay. So, Cook Islands. I've said it to a couple of people. They're actually based in Australia. That'll be a very young team, but a lot of future stars in that team. So there could be some 16, 17-year-olds playing in the Cook Islands Men's Open.
Wow.
It's crazy. There's an area in Sydney that's just sort of got a big family base with Cook Island heritage. So that's where they've sort of based around that club. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one. I think that'll be a bit of a dark horse. I don't think people will be expecting the quality of Cook Islands. Actually, well, that's we're talking men's open. I'm not sure actually about their men's 30s. I know they'd be based in the same area. But yes, that'd be interesting. So majority of those guys, I imagine, would live in Australia. But yeah, so Australia men's 30s. There's a few guys I've chatted to. We've spoken about the Australian men's 30s, and we always mention that it's going to be a very sort of Doyleson heavy influence on the style of play, because the coach and probably 3 of the players are actually from that club. So that seems to excite a few people because it's just a familiar team that everyone sort of know. They're probably our most popular team in the country, as far as state team go. But yeah, so how does like training in Ireland? Is it I imagine it's probably a lot easier to get together and train as a team than it is probably in Australia or even China.
The geography of Ireland, like John drove over from the west of Ireland earlier, he was saying, driving from the west to the east of the country takes 3 hours. So one of the advantages we don't have a huge playing population. We don't have incredible numbers. but we have a lot of people who can train weekly. So the mixed open at the moment, we're training every second week, and we're going to be training every month for last year. The men's open train weekly, the men's 30s train weekly. Then there's, we alluding to the club we play for. In the opens category, most of the players will come from one club, Old Wesley. I think at the last World Cup, it was like 60% of open players came from the one club, some ridiculous number. And due to that, there's a huge familiarity with the players. We all know each other incredibly well. That's one advantage we have, just because we're from one of those smaller countries. Would you agree there, John?
Very much so, and it's definitely a gift and a curse in terms of we can train regularly and we have the same people training with each other, but we just have that smaller player pool. So England would have the numbers over us, Tom. They would have, I think 40,000 correct? I don't know. They have a huge high number anyway, whereas we would have roughly around 1,000. But what we do is we try to compensate that by training all of the time. So we'll have club training tonight. There's international training Wednesday and more international training on Sunday. And the 30s and men's will hit out against each other a lot. So in that way, it's good. In the other way, we're still trying to build participation numbers nationwide.
Yeah, okay. Do you have like sort of exhibition games against, like whether it's England or like sort of nations that are close by? Do you sort of have regular hit-outs against those in the lead up?
Yeah, we've got one next weekend.
Next weekend. Okay. Who against?
We're flying over to Nottingham to play the boys 20s, I believe, England boys 20s or 18s, and some of their mixed open male players and some of their 30s and 40s. So like a selection of kind of international players next week. But apart from the NTS, which is the comp I told you about, we typically would only maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 friendlies in the build-up to the tournament. But we would have the club comp, lots of club comps, and Jamie is very much a part of organising and running the club here in Dublin.
Yeah, so like what we end up doing instead, so the mixed open also have training games, but there isn't too much of a culture of it. We don't go into a huge series, even though the flights are cheap. But there's a big culture of you fly to tournaments. So I'm flying in 2 weeks' time. I'm flying to La Rochelle to play a mixed tournament over there in the west of France. We fly over to England to play the tournaments there. I flew to Edinburgh last year. We usually go to Brussels as well. The ladies go to Berlin every year at the moment. So there's a huge pan-European club culture, but we haven't really gotten that to the playing once-off friendlies. At the moment, the Sharks, the national team, how do you call them? The regional team in England, they're coming over there, and we're starting to build that relationship up. But again, with how young touch really is in Europe, it is a relationship we have to build up. It is pathways, it is culture that we have to get right there.
So do you think, when you say young, like is the numbers growing each year? Probably if you take COVID out of it, I imagine that would have taken a bit of a hit.
From my understanding, we're at 10, 15% growth every year, which is fantastic if you look at it in the big picture. But when you think that when I started in 2016, I think there were 300 players who played regularly and registered. Like it's still a very slow growing movement. And Ireland has a huge OzTag culture. We have lots and lots of people who play tag rugby, which means it's always going to be difficult finding pitch space, competing against them, because tag is the easiest form of rugby to pick up. Anyone who can catch a ball can play a game of OzTag pretty quickly, and touch can have a longer onboarding process. So it is a battle, and it is being won very slowly, and it is growing. It's going to take a moment before we find our lucky break, before one school becomes really, really involved in it, and then it takes off from there.
Yeah, and we have the same thing. Like a lot of our clubs at home battle with OzTag. The draw card for OzTag is it's basically a sub sport of rugby or rugby league. If you can do one, you can do the other. And the excuse why people don't want to play touch football is either it's too fast or fandom tags. The fandoms, they always say that's the big problem. But mainly it's because it's too hard to learn a new sport.
Oh, it's so difficult.
But that's what I like about it. Like I like the the idea of such a team aspect. Like if you put, like I use this as an example with OzTag, like you put one good player in an OzTag team, they're a good OzTag team. You put one good player in a touch team, they're not good until the rest of their team is.
Yeah.
So it's such a less of a selfish sport.
Yeah, like an OzTag team, if you have one person who's incredibly fast, knows how to swivel their hips, and has a grubber on them, you can score a plethora of tries. And like I play a bit of OzTag, and that really is true. But touch, you need one person who knows how to strike, you need one person who knows how to be a dummy half, and then you need everyone else hitting holes before you can even think about scoring. Which is one of the reasons why it's so hard to set up. And we have a different kind of setup, how we set up our clubs. So all of the touch clubs in Ireland are based in rugby union clubs. So Old Wesley is a rugby union club. Wanderers down the road is a rugby union club. Same with Belvo, same with Buccaneers, same with the Cook Warriors. They're all rugby union clubs. So when we're going into these places, usually it's one person who has quite a lot of knowledge, and they're teaching 15 brand new people who are just from the local area, enthusiastic. And like, how hard it is to teach people in that environment. But again, like John was alluding to, it really works in our favor sometimes because we have the 2 weekly trainings for our national teams. If we see a player, we've got a player on the mixed open team who's really developed last year, Connor Fitzgerald, and we're able to take him. He comes down to one of the local clubs. We're able to take him, drop him into a men's open training session where he doesn't really know the rules. He's learning, but he's around the best people in the world to learn from in Ireland. So we can really level up people quite quickly because there's not that much of a dynamic system, and we're just close and we all know each other. So there are advantages, but again, it's just about the numbers, about competing with tag at the moment for us.
It would be really cool, like as far as you talk about the culture, that is something that probably Australia doesn't lack, but it doesn't have probably that close connection because it's we're such a big country, and our 2 major cities are probably a 10-hour drive away from each other. So the only time you would ever like play with these players from New South Wales and Queensland is for Australia, which is we have the World Cup and we have a Trans-Tasman. There's not we don't have a Euros or an Asian Cup or anything like that. That's just like we don't have like an Oceania Cup or anything like that. It's just we play either New Zealand or we play the World Cup, or there's like a guest nation that comes over for the Trans-Tasman. So that is cool. I really do like that. It'd make the experience too, when you're sort of all mingling together at the World Cup, much like the culture would be so much better. Like I can guarantee you, like there's players from the men's open that wouldn't know anyone from the men's 55s in Australia. Like they'd never see each other.
Yeah. No, and we definitely have that. And it's also nice to have with the other teams. Like I'm sure John can list off so many players and so many other teams, even teams he isn't going to play against, just because the touch world is small here and we all travel to club competitions so often. And that is nice. It means the rivalry is good fun. It means winning the games are really good fun. Also means losing them hurts, but
yeah,
you have to win.
I do notice at the Euros too, like when you played the final against England, there was a crowd, like people stuck around and supported you.
Yeah, it's huge.
Oh no, yeah, that's great fun. There's a great atmosphere at the game. I was there for the final in Nottingham, and the atmosphere there was absolutely electric.
And everyone was so close to the field too. Like it was just like a square of people around the field, and like we don't usually see that. We have our major tournaments have a grandstand, and that gets packed. Like it packs the grandstand, but that's the same side as the camera. So as far as the camera's concerned, you hear a lot of people, but you never see it. So it's always a field with nothing around it. Whereas it was so weird. Like I hadn't watched any Euros. I'd never even heard of Euros before making this channel. And it was just so weird watching an elite level touch football game with it's surrounded by people. So it looked like a grand final of a social game with the intensity of a national game. Just from my point of view, it was so interesting, and I wish we had more of that at home.
I think it just comes from that place of like, again, all the teams know each other. A lot of the French men's open players, a lot of the French mixed open players knows everyone. So when like in that Nottingham game, when they all saw like a John or the singer James O'Donnell, especially going out in the pitch, like, oh, I want to watch this. I know this guy. He's class. So there's a bit of fun in there, and there's a bit of And there's always a bit of underdog as well, which always helps. A bit of England are just have developed so incredibly well that other countries are happy to see someone try and challenge them. And it becomes a bit of it becomes more there's more drama in it all, and that makes it fun for a crowd to watch.
It's like the Rocky scenario, the
Yeah.
underdog. So John, you said that you played some touch in Australia.
Yeah, I played State Cup in 2019, the one with the smoke. Remember all the smoke came across the
Oh,
pitches? And
I wasn't. There was one of the few years I didn't play. I was sort of not old enough, so all of my friends actually went to men's 30s that year. So I wasn't quite old enough to join them in the 30s, and we didn't have a men's open. We had a mixed open. So I ended up coaching the mixed open side. They were all a lot younger than me, so they were much better players. But yeah, that smoke. I remember there wasn't so much coaching in the box as me holding about 7 inhalers or Ventolin. And as soon as they subbed off, it was like, this is yours, okay, this is yours. And it was me trying to keep them from having an asthma attack the whole time.
it was crazy.
You've probably heard all about it, Jamie, but however much you think John is exaggerating about the smoke, he's not. It was horrendous. And I don't know if you flew straight into Port Macquarie where the State Cup was. We actually drove where I live. It's a 2.5 hour drive, and what is normally a drive through it looks like the forest. It's just trees everywhere. It was just all dead. Like it was all just dead. And it was such an eerie feeling. Like me and my friends were driving, we didn't speak. And it was just so weird. It was such a weird State Cup. They shortened the games. I think they made half times. They didn't start until a bit later.
Yeah.
And it was dry. And then we had a junior State Cup in February in 2020, which was 3 months later, and we got hit with floods.
Washout, yeah.
That was one of the wettest and muddiest State Cups I've ever been to, and then we got COVID. So it wasn't a very good run for us. How did you find it? How did you find the State Cup? Who did you play for? Did you play for, was Ireland there?
No, I played with Sydney Roosters. The coach of East, Christopher Johnson, I don't know if you know him, he actually coached us in Malaysia. So he coached Ireland at the 2019 World Cup, and he was running the men's program at East at the time. So me and there was a couple of guys living in Sydney at the time, and then me and another guy, we flew over for it. But it was awesome to experience. It was like the Glastonbury of touch, you know.
Yeah, unfortunately, you came at well, it could have been worse. You could have came in 2021 when it got completely cancelled because of the weather.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you think you'd ever come over again?
I'd love to. Yeah, my goal was to play NTLs the same year or in 2020, but it didn't work out. It was literally just as COVID was happening.
And that was one of the last major tournaments that was before COVID hit, because we were getting announcements during that tournament about hey, it's probably best you don't shake hands and don't share drinks. And we were all like, what's going on? Like, is something happening? And then I think they announced the lockdown on the way home. They said on the Monday it was going to be a lockdown or something like that. So it was very, very, we just snuck that tournament in.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that was my only real experience, but I still have NTL on the bucket list. So I'm going to go back and tick that off. I don't know if it's going to be with an Irish team or if I just go into a player pool or something, but definitely want to tick off NTL.
Well, I know that our region's trying to get a men's 30s.
I'm available, mate.
Yeah, we've always had the numbers, but it's just finding someone to coach and organise the team is in recent years, no one's actually done that. But this year, there's one of them that stopped playing, and he's actually said he would. So that's good. So we'll probably have a men's 30s team now, which is great.
Awesome, yeah. And I think in regards to like coaching here in Ireland, the big change that came for us is when we started to look outwards for the coaching. You know, so we looked to, we had Pete Walters over from Galaxy pretty early on in like I think it was 2018. And then we got over some Australian coaches that were involved with Bankstown and East. And that's what kind of elevated us, because when we were trying to do everything ourselves internally, it was quite challenging, and it was better to look abroad to the experts and use their knowledge to kind of upskill not just the players, but like myself and Jamie and others upskill ourselves as coaches. And because a lot of the time, Tom, we would have to learn through YouTube. Like before your channel, there was similar channels, but we'd have to learn ourselves, basically.
And like I was in the same boat. Like I'm not based in Sydney. I'm about a 2.5-hour drive from Sydney. So we didn't really have, like me, when I was playing, I was coached by my parents. So we didn't have that massive level of experience. And when I started coaching, I was doing the same. I was watching YouTube, and one of the only channels available was Peter Walters's. And that was aimed at really elite level. Like it was aimed at the very elite style coaching, which as a beginner coach, it was just, wasn't irrelevant. So I'm watching a video on, okay, we're going to talk about point side defense. Oh yeah, that's great. I'm coaching under 12s.
Yeah.
Where's the draw and pass video? All right, Jamie, welcome back, by the way.
So I dipped off there. Was conspiring against mixed open Chinese team. John
was just talking about your defensive policy.
But it is really that thing. I remember when I think John was very much in need of that, of getting some Australian coaches over. There's Pete Walters, and he did camps around the whole of Ireland, and that was a huge day of change for us. I remember even during COVID, we had some really good coaches in little seminars. Carly Banks is one of them. Her talk with us was fantastic.
John, you'll play against Carly Banks's men's 30s team. She's the men's 30s Australian coach.
Yeah, I've been talking to her about it. I know Carly, as Jamie said, during COVID, we organised like coaching seminars like this, like how we're doing now with Zooms, and we got Dale Hennessy, Mitta Graham, Carly, Rashid Prasad from Bankstown. We got loads of people on, and that was a great way of upskilling when we couldn't really play because we were all locked in our rooms,
Yeah, I'll tell Carly that John Ennis says Ireland are going to smash Australia.
Well, yeah, I think if we can keep that game under 20-0, we'll be doing good.
No, I tell people they're not going to do anything special. It's just going to be fast and direct. It's just fast, clinical, high completion rate, and direct.
I'd love to pick your brain on something, Tom. I have this theory that at World Cup, a lot of the Oz teams are actually going to go direct. They're not going to use the subset that we've been used to over the last 10, 12 years. I think there's going to be a lot more direct rucking. What are your thoughts on that? No, can't see it.
And so one of the maybe they might have it up their sleeves, but only for games. So the hardest thing about playing direct, and I tried this a couple of recent tournaments, is it looks amazing, but in the eye, like if I put myself in the referee's shoes, all of a sudden now that is 3 times as hard to get players on side. So because that's super hard, you're finding that when you go direct, players are getting away with being a couple of meters offside, because all of a sudden now the referee has to set the 7 meters each time, but because they're running direct, it's going end to end so much faster. So it becomes such a bigger load on the referees that it's almost impossible to keep those players on side. Plus, when we did it, because we're always angling back in, we were throwing the ball forward a lot. We were actually overrunning the play because we weren't used to it. At training it looked amazing because we didn't have any referees picking at it. But all of a sudden we got to the game, and when it worked, it was amazing. But half the time we were getting done on second touch for a forward pass. So I think maybe sprinkled here and there, but I can't see it being a permanent thing. Like that's all they're going to do is run direct. They might throw it in every now and again, but it is a big ask for referees, especially like if you're playing a game and the referee could be from I don't know, Guernsey or something like that, where they might not have access to elite games on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So they might not so much keep up, but they might be a little bit taken back with the speed.
And if you get trapped in the middle and you can't get a sub referee on like a men's open game and you aren't used to that, you'll get run over as a referee. And you're right, soon it'll be the offsides first, so you stop refereeing entirely. And you'll give up the first two touches just to even set yourself. It's one of those things about you always notice if you take a roll too quickly before the referee set, the defending players can always be offside because the referee this is such a hard, it's the first touch is so hard to get in place for the referee, both to get into the right position and call and figure out who's onside and that turnover. And if you go too quickly, you lose a bit of an advantage sometimes. And there's a bit of that with going back.
We're actually trying trialing for a 4 referee process, and it's to stop that. So add transitions. Say you're looking at a dive at the line, you're in the in goal, but then it's a transition. You've got to make it 14 meters out to get players on side. We're going to try a 4th referee that hangs back behind the team with the ball to be ready for that transition.
Wow.
So that way you're refereeing the exact same way, subbing the same way, but you don't have to worry about that end-to-end transition, which is the killer. Like that is the hardest part of refereeing to get right. And that's all the focus is on your urgency from the changeover. But now we're just making it a little bit easier, especially when you're refereeing multiple games. Like at our tournaments, referees will referee 7-8 games a day. Sometimes. Yeah, it's a very taxing for a referee.
7-8 game, that's actually brutal. But for the 4th referee, so like usually the sideline referees look after the wingers and links, communicate them. Who does the 4th referee communicate with, or are they kind of on a break?
They will do literally nothing, except for if there's something that they see that no one else sees, they're allowed to adjudicate on that, like a push in the ruck or a hand in the ruck or something like that where they're needed. But they're literally just there, kind of like what you used to see in the NR. I don't know if you watch rugby league. We used to have the pocket referee, just sort of hanging behind. But yeah, they're literally there to set the 7 as soon as there's a changeover.
That's so interesting. And when you say we, Tom, who's trialing it?
Just different parts of Australia. It's in its very infancy. There's like sometimes at tournaments I've been. Like I referee some tournaments when I'm not either playing or coaching, and just for fun, we just try it. There might be someone on without a game or something like that, and it's like, hey, come and do a 4-way. It's like, oh, all right, let's see how it goes, and it is much easier. It is so much easier.
Yeah, because I was refereeing the English national competition the other week, and I had a Div 2 game, and at one stage there was, the absolute sin of dropping the ball in first touch, and the only person that's worse for is the referee. He has to do the 14 back and forth. And I got caught in a couple of those, and I was absolutely exhausted. Yeah. Having a 4th referee would be incredible.
It's literally that. It's the only thing that it's designed to help is the 7-7 run, because and we've had a lot of referees go down with like calf injuries and stuff like that from that part of the game. Like we had a tournament last year. It was so funny. That it was in Sunshine Coast. It was in Brisbane, but it was a really cold night, and it was a national junior tournament, and I was coaching a team, and we had 2 referees from Darwin, which is the hottest, most north, close to the equator part of Australia. And they're used to refereeing in very hot, humid conditions, but all of a sudden it was a really cold, windy night, and both of them went down with calf injuries and cramps and stuff in the first 5 minutes. But it was all triggered from that 7-7 run.
No, it's absolutely brutal. It's an absolutely brutal 7-7. But it's always interesting because you get to see so many of those rule changes before we do. I remember when they got rid of deviation, and deviation was such a hard rule to teach new people. And then once you'd gotten rid of it, then it came to us later. It was so difficult to unlearn as a habit.
Deviation? Which rule was that? We might call that something different.
How do you describe deviation, John?
The line you take, your exit line as a toucher on the 7, you have to maintain it until you hit the try.
So it's supposed to be, okay, we call that shadowing. So if you change your angle and go with the player, we call that shadowing. You're shadowing the player. And then, you're right. They've taken that away.
Well, that was a big one. And then the other one, which I'm always hoping gets changed, is the one on the extra time.
Oh, how you should get a dump?
No. Yeah, no, but how long it is. So you know the way every team...
Sorry, I thought you were talking about... I always say that after the siren, you should get one dump, one phase of play, because teams just literally especially when they're defending the line, they just don't make the touch and wind the clock down. It'll stop them from doing that. So you get one phase, not one touch. It's one phase of play.
No, that's a good one. My big one is every team wants to take the tap and drop off, because whoever takes the tap and drop off is way more likely to win. Because if you get the tap, you get 2 sets generally, and the other team get 1.
Because it's 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. It should be 2.5 minutes.
2.5 or 3.
2.5 or 3. That means both teams get 2 sets, which makes it so much more even, which takes out that huge tactical advantage. It's massive. And if you win tap off, there's no reason to not take it. It's always more useful to go second, so you can get that tap off and the drop off. But that phase one's a real good one. I like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, just because we call it jockey. So just ride the clock out. So if we're defending the line and the clock's behind us saying 10 seconds, our box is just yelling jockey, and we just give away a penalty. We're not making a touch until the hooter's gone and they can't dump the ball. So change it, make it so they can dump the ball.
Yeah,
and all you need is one. All you need is one strike.
That's literally it, and it'll stop that play, which I know it doesn't look good for the game, but we do it because it helps us win. But I'm more than happy to change a rule so nobody can do that, because I'd like to not do it, but I'd like everyone to not do it. So
gotta give me the advantage for doing it.
I have been talking to some guys about rule changes. The other one is that really annoys me is when you get penalised for 7 on the field. Or when you get a penalty. So when China's playing Ireland and China get a penalty, they take the penalty right next to the Ireland box. And I'm saying the penalty should be in the middle where a tap-off would be, because you're penalising the whole team. You're not penalising one player. You're penalising the team for having too many players on the field. You're not penalising the player for jumping on as the 7th player. All of a sudden, everyone is part of the 7 people.
Yeah, and I get that.
And it's really hard if then you want to sub off. You're in the worst position because you're in a spot that you've never practiced, and so it's actually not a real big advantage at all. So take it from the middle where you've actually practiced.
Yeah, because everyone's done a million tap-offs. So there's so much more advantage from getting in the middle of the pitch, because you can go back into your pattern and say, and if you're going to sub, you're way closer to your own box. No, I agree. That'd be another rule change. But again, it's an evolving sport. There's going to be rule changes, there's going to be things, and there's going to be even little rule changes that are going to make that different. Just like the through the ruck one, where it's a penalty in 10 meters, but no one ever calls it. No one ever calls it up here. Is it for a penalty through the ruck? It's actually a penalty plus 10 meters, is it?
Is it?
It's one of those ones. And I can never remember. It's supposed to be. We've been told this at NTS, and no one ever referees like that. Everyone just goes penalty, because walking the 10 meters doesn't help. Or when the other killer is when you're driving off the pitch and a defensive team give away a penalty and you lose all momentum.
Oh, I hate it. That's
awful.
So if we actually, so the culture in Australia, and it was very different when I started going to China, and I'm trying to sort of get their heads around it, that if you're making a dump and in any way that defender forces the ball loose, be stronger. That's your fault. We don't want a penalty. Yeah. Be strong, get the ball down, let's get some momentum, because we don't need 8 touches. We need 6. We've got 6. Let's use 6. So even if you get a penalty, if say they come up and hit you or hit your arm or something, no, change your technique, win that play the ball, and keep the play going. So that's our culture. Whereas in China, it's just penalty all the time. Like the Chinese referees are very strict on the hard touch. So minimum force means minimum force. You make a 2-handed touch, you're probably giving away a penalty.
That's another aspect I'm really looking forward to the World Cup, because different referees in different parts of Europe have way different levels of contact you're allowed. I've been a victim of this as well, and I know John struggled as well. And I know in Australia you guys play. I've played some social stuff in Australia. I know you guys play way more physical. And it's going to be a really interesting cultural change. And it's going to be dependent on the ref as well, which is a really difficult thing to ref, because refs have to change their style of refereeing and adjudicate differently based on the players in front of them. And that's going to be a really interesting impact that I'm looking forward to seeing at the World Cup.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Interested to see. So, what is Ireland's tactics? What sort of plays does Ireland Mixed Open do?
I'll say happily, we're very balanced now. We're very direct. We want to get things done efficiently. We've got no super secret plays. We just want to get.
You don't have to answer this. You know that.
I know. I know.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you stuff. I don't care.
Yeah, let's go.
We're very Hunter Western Hornets based, because that's where I'm from. That's where Carly Banks is from. So a lot of the traits for what I've been sort of brought up with as far as game style goes is very Doyleson Dragons, Hunter Western Hornets style. So it's just that not a lot of plays in your playbook. It's just get the few plays that you've got done perfect and as fast as you can. So like when we're in China, I'm just behind. When we're practicing our rucking, I'm either refereeing or standing behind them, running up behind them and just yelling, faster, faster, run faster, run faster. we actually, I'll time them. So I'll say run a simulated box pattern, and I've got the stopwatch. Let's see how long it takes for you to get to the fifth play the ball. After the fifth play the ball, I don't care what happens, but I want you to get to that fifth play the ball as fast as you can. So not a lot of passing. And it's just as fast as you can, really. So we're okay with running into a shooter, running into a brick wall of defenders. We're not trying to beat anyone. We're just trying to slowly just push you back every time.
No, I think we'd be very much the same. I think it comes from the culture of during the year it tends to be men's and women's, and then mix gets made from everyone who either doesn't make men's and women's or has a preference towards mixed. And there's a culture of winning that midfield that we take with us everywhere. And the Irish teams are famous when we go to England that they know it's the battle of winning that midfield. And again, we don't care if you're going to hit us in the first touch. We don't care if you're going to hit us in second. By third or fourth, we want to start getting momentum. We want to start getting tired, getting onto the side of the ruck and getting a good sweep there. Yeah, direct, less passes. It's easy. It's low risk.
It is very low risk. What got you into why mixed and not men's? I can tell you why I'm doing mixed. It's because China don't have a men's.
I ended up doing mixed because there was basically just coaching stuff free. So in the local club, I'd end up helping out a bit, especially with the newcomers at mixed. I just liked the game. It's a very, very different game to men's. And the head coach is a guy called Paul Brown, really interesting guy. Grew up in Australia. I can't remember where. He'll give out to me for forgetting. Brisbane. He's a Brisbane boy. There it is. Thank you, John. And he was looking for an assistant coach, and I was happy to step up to it. And it's just a different game, and I was happy to help out, like I always am. Kind of person I am.
It is so much more technical than men's and women's mixed. There's so much more to it, tactical wise. It's insane. And like I had some experience with mixed open at NTLs in 19, 20, and 21. But so it's been 3 years since I've coached mixed. So it was just sort of like, oh, how did this go again? That's right, they do this. Oh, okay, we've got to watch out. Okay, if there's a girl on girl link, we've got to do this. If there's a girl on boy link, we can't do this. It's got to be this and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, the shape you're showing. Oh, it is. And the shapes you're showing in defense are wildly different, and they change play by play. It's not as aggressive. It's not as physical, but it's technical. It's an absolute nightmare, and especially for the girls who can, like every mixed team in the world wants to send the fast guy at a slow girl. So it's an absolute nightmare. Very happy to coach it. I usually prefer to play mixed myself. It's just a bit of crack, really.
See, I was the other way around. I was a men's player just because I wasn't as quick. Because in mixed, you've got to cover so much more ground. I wasn't really able to do that. I needed some, because I played middle the last couple of years. I needed some speed around me to just sort of lend a bit of like help out a bit, so they couldn't just run around me.
See, I'm slow on both codes, Tom, so it doesn't really affect me. I'm going to be slow on the mixed pitch, and I'm going to be slow on the men's pitch. But I will be putting John played me before. He knows what kind of player I am. I'm all graft, no speed. There's only one gear, but it's trying very hard.
He's a great communicator, Tom, on the pitch.
That's good. That saves you where you can't when you can't move as well. Just a bit of chat does the job just the same way usually. Yes.
Born a yapper on and off the pitch. Can't stop myself. Just the way I
am. So what do you guys have? You probably don't even want to answer this. How do you sort of do separate plays for if there's a girl on? I can tell you what we do. If there's a girl on boy as opposed to a girl on girl link, do you have sort of separate game plans, or is it just sort of the one?
Yeah, we have separate game plans. We have separate ways of trying to figure out where to get the advantage, but that isn't going to come from. We're not going to be running that stuff off 6 off the line. My worst fear, I hate static line attack, and I never like thinking about it. But it's about trying to figure out a situation where you can put people into those situations so you've got those mismatches. It's about setting up the play, setting up the dumpers. It's about, do you feel comfortable with that girl putting a dump in the middle? It's that kind of stuff more than anything else. Well, have you been doing that? Are you thinking about using any girl links as a middle dumper? Because I know it kind of goes in and out of vogue. We did it last year a lot when we had Tanya Ross and Billy Negrini coaching. They're a big fan of a girl taking a middle dump.
Yep. So I've done that in the past. Not doing it this tournament, just probably because I don't have enough time. I'm over there for 3 weekends. So I've done 2 weekends, going over this weekend to China, but it's looking like it's going to rain. So I don't know how much running we're going to be able to do. If we had more time, definitely. One of my favorite ones was the what did they do? We switched the girl in and ran an ML. Yeah. And the girl would split and run the short line. So we'd have boy ball player with a boy on the short side option to keep that link from striking, and then a passive out the back for another boy. That was sort of one that we ran a lot in mixed because if you had a boy link, they were too threatened to come in and make the touch on you because you had a boy wrapping around. And that meant you had the girl link on the other side where your boy was out the back, passive. Or the other way around was there was a girl link on the short side where you could give to your boy who would just try and run around the girl. So we always had
but also putting that girl into hole one is probably her best chance of scoring as well, because it's going to be the gap where either her hole's biggest or it's non-existent and she just has to run a line. That's the easiest place for her, especially in a mixed game when she's making the touch on the guy middle who can put a bit more pressure on it. So that's a good way of alleviating some stress off her, but still giving her a good option. Yeah, utilizing the player's best.
We are in we call it here a slider. So this is back in that smoke tournament that John played in when I coached the mixed open there. So we'd run a sweep, just a standard sweeper. You know, I've got one of my recent videos when you just take off and you run the other way from dummy half.
Yeah.
So the boy would sweep around. The dummy half would take off to the short side, but the girl link on the side of the sweeper would cut in behind the sweeper and run as a trail.
I could see, no one's ever looking at the girl, they're looking at the guy. So space just magically appears straight over.
Yeah. Because you got this big, fast link sweeper who's sweeping around. So you just and their job is when they sweep to sweep as close as they can to that defender. Basically stand right in their face. Just to literally block out the view.
Did you write that down, Jim?
Yeah, no, I'm doing analysis right now. Paul's in the room with me. He's right down the corner.
We literally did that for a tap-off move. We took 2 on the side of the sweeper. We took two buddies, and then we just threw it in, ran the sweeper and ran it. We'd just run either a normal sweeper or we'd call that a slider. Just slide through the middle, or we used to call it a splitter, but now there's a different splitter. So I'll actually have one of the videos that I've scheduled is that slider. I can I can wait until after the World Cup if you want me to wait.
Send me the preview. Send me the preview though.
I gotta be a member.
Yeah.
Gotta be a member. If you're a member, I'll post it up early.
There we go.
Yeah. Because when you started talking about it, I thought you were talking about Splitter for a second. Splitter is a great move. Very fun. Yeah,
move. Splitter it's a good static move, and it's I haven't seen it before probably 2-3 years ago, and it's now like one of the most popular moves around. We used to run that as a subbing. In our subbing, we used to run the splitter off the first touch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Lovely. Good fun.
Do you so with the subbing, you don't have to tell me what it is, but did you put your own spin on something, or did you use something that was like
Put your own spin
already
on
used?
something. So we put our own spin on something because the way underdogs win is you have to slightly change it into something that's like no one's ever seen before. Otherwise, you're just using the same old patterns, and a team that's better than you is going to beat you at that pattern.
Mhm.
There's a little bit of spin in it. Paul Bound, our coach, has been working really, really hard to try and get something new, something we can pull out. So he does a lot of work with the Bulgarian national team, who aren't actually entering this World Cup. So he was trialing with them, brought it to a French tournament, and it did really, really well. So we've got some like different things. And the problem is there's always a chance that one of your local teams has done a park comp and that you'll always know the difference. And that's always going to be the thing with an Australian coach. An Australian coach is going to be able to look, oh, we did that 5 years ago. There's an easy counter. But half the fun is figuring out if something's going to get counted.
Yeah.
Figuring out there's an easy solution to something. And there always is. Like one of the old English things is they used to run 232s away from you. And you get screwed by it. And then we figured out you can just chuck, you can just bias, you can switch your middles and who's shooting up where. And that was a really easy solution. But we were getting absolutely dusted for ages on it. And finding something like that is so nice. A little nugget of information like that, it's so pleasing.
232s, like on the far side.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. John, PPE, wasn't it?
Punch easy, yep.
Yeah, punch easy with 232s on the far side.
It's an away. It sets up like an away set home, and then they just use the space.
Because we have our version of an away set too, but we never really use it. What we're trying to, like from where I'm from, like our sort of state sides, especially in our juniors, we're looking at trying to get the latch on for the third. So we're trying to get off in 2 where we can.
Yep.
So we're sending
sending the wing off. Oh yeah.
Oh, we did that at our state cup this year. That was the one that I was talking about, where when we were running direct, we kept getting done for forward passes. So we would send our wing off straight away, and our far link would go on first. I can forward you a video after this, and of one time when it did work. But every single dump was on a middle. So every dump was on a middle, and it worked out that the fourth dump, which would normally be the latch, was the last middle off the field. He would then drag the middle in front of him over off centre and dump the ball on 4 and then sub off, and then that same winger would come back on at the end.
No, yeah, because that was something that Doyleson used to do, because they used to send the wing off early. Because you did a video on that.
I did, and within half an hour, I had the whole team messaging me saying, "Can you please take that down?" They were nice about it. They were like, "Yeah, no worries, I'll take it down. Thanks for watching." It's back up now, but you've got to be a member to watch it. So not everyone can go out there and watch it. But yeah, so theirs was a little bit different to the way ours was more. This is a process. So your job is always this, whereas theirs, they actually practice a lot of ad lib. So they had maybe 2 touches where, okay, we're going to kind of do this. But once the 2 middles got on the field, it was just check the ball around and just make meters, very old school way. And when I was chatting to them about it, they said they really enjoyed that sort of style because it never got boring. It was never sort of stale. And that's what was so hard to defend, because you couldn't get a read on it as a coach. It was just okay, you're up. I'm going to throw to this guy. All right, that guy's up. He's going to throw it back. And it was very sort of social touch where you've got no subs and you just got to get down the other field and you're buggered. So you pass the ball more than you run hard.
The French team used to be lethal for that. They used to what they used to call double touch, where they'd send absolutely awful, because they're just bringing you back and forth until finally you get a presentable picture where they can't get any more yards here. But at that point, you've run sideways pointlessly further. And the Frenchmen's Open used to be awful for that. I hate playing against it. I hate it. And what
double touch, as in they send a high middle and try to touch both your middles and work really hard.
No, as an attack, it was an attacking policy. So they'd send the far link on first, and they'd send them on a mission, dragging the whole way back to the pitch. And once the defensive near middle had tracked to him, he'd chuck it back, and they'd drag the whole other way again and take a 43 pickup and end on the other side of the pitch. They just
Oh,
wanted to
okay.
drag it back and forth endlessly. It was a nightmare to play against. And when we go to the French tournaments, we went to La Rochelle, we just ended up stuck into the line.
Yeah, okay. So
Straight back to the line.
we actually have our links. Our links it's actually got a pretty easy job at home when we play men's in our men's team. Our links aren't making touches. So when you try to drag, our middles are pressing up hard together. So if you try to drag one way, when you look to check back, the other middle's just standing there going, "You're not passing." And our link's back there on the 7, ready to just sort of save a dive on the short side. So that's how we sort of get rid of the whole drag, chuck back in, take us the other side. It's literally our 2 middle players are just up blocking everything. And if you want to drag it that far, our winger's going to come up and make the touch.
I can really see the influence the Australian team's having on the English teams, because we played Sharks a couple of weeks ago, that regional team, and they started doing that. They just started presenting both middles, so you couldn't drag them anyway. And that way, you're actually forced to take one option, because whichever middle has the ball can't check passage, because that person's going to get a man on ball. So then you have to play at one side so that middle can drop easier. And it's the obvious solution. It's so easy. Dive, you're kind of weak to a good dive. A good ML might get you if both your middles are half presented, but it does stop that checking back and forth endlessly looking for a penalty.
Yeah, just do an out ball, just rip an out ball. Yeah, just
an out ball. Game over.
It. Yeah, as soon as that other middle's up, just out ball, or you run a rooster with a quick release or a counties quick release. Anything that just rips it off the deck usually is very hard to defend when you've got 2 higher middles. And that's something that I've been working on with juniors as well. We're doing a lot of plays that it's just going to get from here all the way over to the other side as quickly as possible. Because defensive, everyone's so tight these days. They're too worried about dive. So we're doing quick release plays, and that's on one of the videos too about how to attack without a long ball. It's just all about
you just said these.
Yeah, all quick release plays, and they're very good plays.
Yeah, they're good plays. They're fun. They're also fun to play with. As a ship passer, they're great. I love them.
Good to get fast links. We actually run the Cindy, and the idea is just to get a fast link with the ball to try and counter the momentum, really. And yeah. And then the other option is you give it to the sweeper. So
it's safe. It's low risk. One way it's going to be fine. It's like what you're saying with the sweeper pickup. It's low risk. On 5th, there's no problem. Like, you've got a good opportunity if you just pick and run that you might find a hole. People present it. It's about finding options that whatever team you have, whatever we just have, just finding a way of eliminating that risk.
The trick to it, when you pick up, no matter what happens, throw the ball long. If you get touched, you throw the ball long. Just get rid of the ball. Get yourself back in, because then you can give away a touch pass penalty. The penalty is going to be the exact same spot as where the ball would have been, and you're back an extra couple of meters for the penalty, but you're all set. So just throw the ball. You're not throwing it away. Throw it to your winger. Throw it to the ref. Yeah, the idea is just to not get caught with the ball and then just still have the ball. It's touch. Oh, I didn't realize. Sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, another thing I was thinking about that I think might be interesting in the World Cup is because the referees in Europe, they not always exact about it, and I think the Australian refs would be a lot more strict about it, is standing in the passing channel being a knockdown and a 6 more. So, when you jump into the passing channel as a defender with your back, turning your back to make sure you're not looking at it and knocking the ball down. From my understanding, the Australians rule that they're more likely to give that a 6 more. I was watching their colours, Australia blue and grey, and those 1 or 2 of them, and it's a really interesting one because you get away with you get away with it in Europe quite a lot.
We don't see that a lot. The ones that we do see are ones where you're making a touch, so your hands are up making the touch, and then when they pass the ball, it hits your hand. They call that 6 again.
Yeah.
But hitting you in the back, I probably would say no.
Okay.
But if you're if you're in the passing channel or somewhere looking to even make a touch on the person with the ball, they say that you're making a play at the ball because you're trying to touch that person because they got the ball.
Yeah.
So they say, all right, it's your responsibility to now not block where they're trying to pass. That's just
Yeah, that's what I'm describing incredibly poorly. But no, yeah, it's gonna be fun.
That's I actually like it because it's very easy to be consistent that way. The only time that it'll probably be a ball down is if like it's on the last and they try this stupid flick pass that's never going to go to anyone and someone's hand just happens to be there. Australian refs will call that ball down because it's like you were never going to keep the ball in the first place. That's just silly to give you 6 again. So the refs are pretty smart as far as that. But Australian refs very strict on forward passes off the ruck. Very. Oh my God, it's borderline annoying. Because I always say it, you could get, if you call 10 of them, let's say 9 of them are correct, which is a great 90%, but you've missed probably 10 again, which means it's only like 45% correct.
Yeah.
It's
a very tricky one.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of guessing. And no one ever used to complain about forward passes off the ruck if you're just doing a subset or driving the ball. It's really those ones that leads to tries when you can get referees in line with the ball. They're the ones that need to be pulled up.
Tom, I don't know if you saw the final in Vichy last year. They mic'd up the sideline refs. I don't know if you have that in us, but the whole way through the tournament, the sideline refs weren't mic'd. So if they saw a forward pass off the ruck or whatever, it's very rare that they'll shout onto the pitch and tell the control ref that basically it's forward or whatever. They might do this at the end of the set or whatever. But in the final against England, I'm sure you saw how many roll ball errors there were, how many forward off the rucks there were. I think there was 17 before halftime or 11 before halftime or something like that. And whereas we played England that morning and had, I think, 1 roll ball penalty. But in the final, all the 2 sideline refs were mic'd up and they were super vigilant on the forward off the rucks, and also when we plant the ball, that we're getting the full body over, the foot over. It was just like
not just a swinging leg. Yeah, that swinging leg was a really bad habit. That only got picked up in the final when all the referees could talk to each other easy.
And I think just on that, like they shouldn't have mic'd them just for the final. So we had to adjust to the way it was being refed in the final was different to the rest of the tournament, and I think both teams found that quite challenging.
We have referees mic'd up as well, but it's probably only like in a senior tournament, men's and women's open, and in a junior tournament, boys and girls 18s. So they're the only. So we had mic'd up referees. I had the boys 18s at a junior tournament. So we had mic'd up referees. I had the men's 20s at seniors, so we didn't. But the mic'd up, it's good and bad. I seem to think that because they're also mic'd up to the TV, they're also mic'd up to the stream.
Oh.
So, and it's very hard because if they're not mic'd up and they see something that's sort of 50-50, they might want to let it play on. But it's like they feel like they have to call everything because if they miss it, everyone will know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword there. I don't think touch football needs the mic'd up, in my opinion. The only time, because I think it's just too fast to, imagine being a referee and the amount of talking that you do fast paced, there's never any stoppage. And then all of a sudden you've got 2 other referees in your ear. They might not even be talking to you. They might be just talking to the winger and the link. And then all of a sudden they say something to you and all of a sudden you're expected to hear it.
What you were saying earlier, but it's not as important for a touch as 1, 2, 3. Because it isn't and for touches 4, 5 when you can be scoring, referees can just walk over to each other. And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on referees in touch. It's a very, very quick game. You make a lot of decisions very quickly. And I referee a bunch and I have a lot of sympathy for them. Like I referee a lot of the men's open Sundays with me and a lovely woman called Isabel Tierney. And that is a struggle. But again, it's having those 2 extra voices in you. It's having the players on the pitch saying, "Ref, can I go?" It's having the people shouting on the sideline. Having the 2 bits of extra information is actually quite a lot, especially if you're going to have 4 efforts.
Yeah,
especially when
I can guarantee if I was running like the sideline ref for you and I needed your attention, I'd get it. I can guarantee you I would get your attention. If
you'd be locked in.
But I'm not a ref like you two boys, but isn't there a thing where the sideline refs don't really want to interfere with the control ref? Like,
No.
isn't
No,
that a thing?
I don't know. I think that the sideline refs are there as assist. They're there to assist.
Okay.
So we if I was refereeing, and it happened tonight actually, I was refereeing tonight at our social, and I called the middle on. I called him onside, and then the sideline ref yells that he's offside.
Okay.
And
It's a bit chaotic.
and then he goes like that, turns around, and the guy runs straight through and scores. And he goes, "You just called me on." So what do you do there? So yeah.
But are the mics then designed to solve that issue, or do they make it worse?
So I referee rugby league at a semi-professional level, and every game we have it mic'd up, but I only hear the guys with the flags. I don't hear them very often. Forward passes, maybe. Offside players, if they know that they're from my blind spot and they're shooting, they might yell out they're offside. And if I get the count wrong, if I say it's the third but it's the second, they'll come over and say, and they'll correct me. So there's not a lot of chat.
And also as a silent referee, it's about figuring out when you can be useful. So like, again, calling something you've already called is tough, and it's not always a great decision. But as a referee, you should be communicating early and often. You shouldn't be calling someone offside. You should be back to here, not good work, that kind of stuff. And it's also like when you're on the line defending and they're setting up as a referee and you're looking at the other side of the pitch and there's a wing who's constantly dropping back legally. That's when you're useful. You don't want a silent referee interfering with the middle of the pitch. That's where you're doing it. And that's really where those mics come in, especially if they're connected to the live stream. That's a lot of pressure all of a sudden, because then the sideline referees are interfering with the middle of the pitch, which is your domain, and suddenly you have to look at a lot more things, and every referee is looking at a lot more things. That's tough.
Because I'm friends with a lot of our referees, and it was funny, and you hear it on the stream. I'm talking to one of our sort of up and coming referees, Brandon Sanderson, who will be at the World Cup. He's like a giraffe. And I'm like, "Oh, are you mic'd up?" And one of my other friends was in the middle. I was like, you mic'd up? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, where's the mic? And he goes, oh, here. And I whack his chest like that. And then you watch the referee in the middle just go, ah. I looked over and we're all laughing.
That's good. That's good.
I don't know if they'll do it at the World Cup. Maybe for Men's Open and Women's Open. They should. If they're going to do it for men's, they need to do it for women's. And potentially,
I think they need to do it from game one, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even if it's just if it's just field one, because then, like, even if you don't get refereed by someone with communication equipment on, you can go and watch it and have a look at how it's been refereed. Because it's just all it is. It's like introducing, like, we have the video assistant bunker in our NRL. All it means is everything just becomes more strict.
Yeah.
And they just try and find not so much that they're trying to find, it's just they feel like they need to pull up something because they're just more exposed, which I get. Like, you're human.
Yeah, agreed.
Tom, it must be close to your bedtime.
Oh, it's nearly Tuesday. John, we haven't had this much talk about referees on the channel. I've got some referees lined up to do a chat, and we're talking about we're going to talk about like rules and stuff like that. Like, what do they want to change? And I think that the drop off one that you're talking about is a really good one. And we're going to talk about like best games they've ever refereed and things like that. I've always got to be careful with what I say about referees, because my dad is a level 6 and refereed World Cups, and my wife's dad is the number 1 in the world. So. So just always got to be careful, otherwise I'm not the most liked at the next family gathering.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's important to say it's the toughest thing. I'd much rather, playing is so easy. Refereeing is so difficult. You have to make so many decisions.
They go, oh, but you get to go to the sideline. It's like, yeah, all you're doing is refereeing from a different spot on the field. Yeah. The only break you get is from running backwards. Your legs get to not run backwards for a little bit. You're running the same spot but forwards. If anything, you're going from 90% to 70%. It's not a break.
I think it's. I thought it was born about four. You can correct me if I'm wrong here, John, but it was about 4 years ago. That all the men's open players had to start doing refereeing stuff as well, so they can understand what it's like to be a referee. John, am I correct in that?
Yeah, no, yeah, you are. No, I think that's important. I think a good grasp of the rules is fundamental to being a good player. But I'd like to segue for a second, Tom, because I know you're heavily involved with you know, the Hornets and teams like that. And I'd like to ask you a couple of questions around the latch because I think it was 2017 or 18. I think Carly came to State Cup with Doyleson. They just won the Bowden, I think, and then they were running latch heavily at State Cup. And I remember that game. I looked at that tournament and I was like, okay, we should try to play like that because we've lost lots of fast, fit, athletic guys. We mightn't be the most technically minded when it comes to touch, but one thing we can certainly do well is run. So the game, I think Australia played New Zealand in the Women's Open Trans-Tasman in, I think it was 2016 or around that time, maybe 2015, and they were running latch heavily. And then I think it just disappeared. Nobody else ran it for a while. And then Carly and Doyleson obviously brought it back onto the main stage. So where did it actually come from, or do you know where it came from or how it came about?
No, I don't know. All I know is that was popularized by Doyleson. That was the first time I'd seen it, and the first time we really noticed it was because Doyleson's part of our region. Back when I was playing men's open for my club was when Doyleson, they first got that crew together and they first started trialing it. And we did notice that like playing in middle, I always found that the person that would just run on the field would dump on me all the time. They wouldn't dump on anyone else. So that was the first sort of time I noticed it, but I didn't really study it probably until 2020 or when I started coaching seniors. But it's funny we talk about latch. I just want to share my screen.
Oh, let's go.
Show you. Show this is first. This is one of the videos I've got upcoming. Tell me if you can see that.
Oh yeah, nice.
Let's go.
Can you see that?
Yeah. It was a big game changer for us, to be honest, Tom.
Now I just need to know how to get rid of it. Is it still sharing the screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I want to turn it off now.
Stop button there somewhere.
I'm going to go back to. I don't know what I'm doing. It's the first time I've done this. Lots of scenes can share. Just talk amongst yourself for a little bit. I'm trying to stop this.
There should be a little stop share button there. I'm actually just going to run to the bathroom quick.
Okay.
Best of luck, John. Safe journeys.
I have no idea what I've done.
Can't turn it off.
I can't turn it off. We're just going to watch the latch for a while.
Do you have multiple screens? Oh, there you are. Oh,
what am I doing? What am I doing here? No, I'm trying to get this off. I need to go to screen 2. No, that's not right. I need to stop this.
There'll be a bar somewhere on your computer that I think you might have moved from screen 1 or 2 to 3, and there'll be a stop share button. It'll be red, and it'll be underneath the black bar.
Stop recording. Meeting information view. Yeah, can you see me with the thing behind me?
Yeah, I can see you with the thing behind you. Presentation mode is called, I believe.
Presentation mode.
Yeah.
This is just going to be on the blooper reel.
And the recording's still going, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still going. We'll get all this. Lovely.
Oh, beautiful.
So I'm on a select a window or an application that you want to share, but there's none of.
How do I explain this? Oh, the big man's back. We're still struggling, John.
I can't get it. I'm sorry. Oh, here we go. I did see a. Oh, it's on the other screen.
Said it.
There we go.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back to normal.
It's on the other screen. I'm looking at my laptop and I had it on my monitor. But so there's that. So that, but in a way, like when I explain the latch to people, all it is it's nothing special. It's just the connection. Like when you think of a latch, it's just a connection. All it's doing is connecting the play from the people going off to the people coming on. So you're buying time and you're getting it on probably the most appropriate player that will allow the rest of your team to get further up the field. If you made it on a winger or a link, the two middles can step forward and sort of halt your momentum. Whereas if you get it on one of the middles, they can't do that because then you'll have the numbers. That's where that fly play came from, because we just realized that, okay, we make it on the middle, all of a sudden it's a 4-on-3 if they want to step forward.
God, I love fly.
Yeah.
A well-executed fly is awesome, beautiful. Some absolutely gorgeous watching it.
Yeah, it is, especially from the box, like the view of the box, it looks really good. And the other one I've got is, I'll share my screen again because now I'm an expert at it.
Live life on the edge, Tom. Live life on the edge.
I'm giving away spoilers here. So if I go share, share.
Okay. Oh, double latch. Let's go.
Yeah, double latch. One of my favorites. We did that, and then we ran a fly off the back of that, and it looked amazing. And that was like kids, like under 12s.
Awesome.
I mean, again, the way that you have, the way that Australia has that always just blows my mind. Like I was watching the under 18s mixed Australia versus New Zealand from, was it the recent one that was put on Touch Australia, or was it last year? But anyway, just like the talent that the kids have and they're learning all these moves and they've grown up with it. And like when I very briefly lived in Brisbane, and every person there knew what touch was, every person there knew how to plant a ball. And you go down to your local park comp, and just having that is just absolutely incredible. Because you get under 12-year-olds who probably beat me, like just incredible athletes who know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's insane how, like, you look at under 12s in Australia now, and most under 12s teams, if you look back 10 years ago at a state cup, they would win. It's just the involvement in. But the only downside is I think they're getting taught structure too early.
Yeah.
They're missing that. They're missing that sort of flair and being able to think on the spot. They're just focusing on, it's like they've got a job, they just do that job. And yeah, it looks great when the team does that, but as an individual, they're not learning much more than just that one job. So you could be selected in an under 12s Hornets team or whatever, and what do? You latch all weekend.
Yeah.
That's just your job. Yeah. And you don't know how to do anything else because you haven't been taught that and you haven't been trained that way. It's just you latch. So that is the one downside to it.
But speaking of going back and watching old footage, you ever watched any of the really early European Cup stuff? What was it called? The Home Nations? John,
no,
what was the Home Nations?
Stay away from the time. You'll have to bleach your eyes afterwards.
If anyone's still watching who really wants to curious about how far Ireland's come as a nation, look at the 2014 England versus Ireland Home Nations game. It changed my life. I'm a pretty suspect player, but I think I got to captain either of those teams. This is before they knew how to do 32s, before they knew any moves. You had young Sebastian Colwell scoring tries just because he was fast. Unbelievable stuff, how it's changed in 10 years.
In fairness to the guys back then, we were so devoid of like knowledge or coaching that it was just, we were running basically, or they were running union switches because that's what they'd known, like that's what they're taught in rugby. But like, it's only when you get people in the system that understand what touch is and how to coach it, then that's when you see.
Even up to 2016, when I started playing, we were all taught that if you're going to do a sweeper, you had to bow into it.
Yeah. I hate that.
And it was when Old Wesley went to the State Cup in 2017, I think, and got absolutely hammered by everyone. And at one point, one of them went up to the founder, Brian Laveau, and said, "Why are you doing that?" And he says, "Because you have to." And he's like, no, you don't have to. No one's ever had to do that. But Bowen to sweep it, like, which is so many dumb things.
And I have the big thing that I see, because when I coach the girls, is for some reason they're all taught before a sweeper. Like, if you want to sweep, if you want that link to sweep, you have to sort of drift over to there, dummy to them first, and then throw the ball this way. And I was like, why are you doing that?
They used
It's
to
like,
call it a seed.
they're like, it's to get the link up. And I was like, well, who cares if that link comes up? Why does that matter? You're sweeping the other way. All you're doing is turning your back. What if you turn around and that middle's up? They're taking an intercept. You're just taking your eye off the person you want to give the ball. Just give them the ball and let them wait.
Yeah. Because we taught the ABCs, weren't we, John? Oh, yeah, ABCs.
I think everywhere that learns English is taught that.
The other one that will give you a laugh, Tom, is our men's team in 2018 were playing eye defense because somebody had seen it at somewhere in Australia and thought, this is how you defend. So it came back over and we were coaching it, not realizing at the time it was a mixed.
It has a time and a place. Time and a place. There's a few women's teams that use it. In a different sort of way, they rotate who the eye defender is. It's not always just the same one, like in mixed, but there's a time and a place, I guess, for eye defense. We practice it. We always practice eye defense at training, because if we come up against a team and they have a one link that's literally carrying their team and doing everything for them, we will shift into eye defense just to make sure that we're not giving him the middle that he wants. So very rare, but it is commonly known.
And in a 6v5 scenario, it's important to understand how to send up, to have a pocket middle or whatever. But that's not why we were running. We were just didn't know.
Thought that was the way.
It was the way.
And how did it work out?
Someone used 32 long ones.
That tournament, we probably had a good shot at winning that tournament, but we were so, in terms of the players we had and the skills and the ability and the fitness and all of that, but in terms of the actual touch IQ, it was so low that we missed out on a silver medal by just a couple of scores against Wales or something. So, but look, if it wasn't for that tournament and how we prepared, we wouldn't be where we are today. So, like, it all had to happen that way regardless. We had to figure it out at a tournament, So I'm grateful we went through all that, because it forced actually myself and a few others. We had to go and seek out the knowledge and learn, So
Australian mixed team will probably not play eye defense. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, the girls are so strong.
Yeah, they have the ability to play both middles up. Yeah. Which is probably, if you've got such a strong team, it's probably the way to go with mix. But my team, we're not there yet. We're doing eye defense.
No, it's one of those. It's one of those things. Again, it makes us even more grateful for like channels like yourself, like Pete Walters, who they genuinely like change how a lot of people say. I know a lot of the new people who come down to my club, I make them watch all your videos because it gives them an idea. When it used to be back in the day, it used to just be whatever Australian games are put up, you just have to watch. And it really did accelerate. Again, I say look at that 2014 video, not because it's a bit funny, it's very, very stupid, but it's also because you can see how we're engaging with it and how the Australian coaches we've had come over, the channels like yourself, really do make a difference on the ground in countries like this. And I know it's the same in other countries. So like it's just a form of appreciation to anyone who's making that kind of content. It really makes a huge difference.
No, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut us off here just because I'm getting like really tired. I'm trying to hold back yawns. But thanks guys for coming on. It's been really fun talking to you guys. We haven't actually spoke about rules and referees as much on the channel as anyone else. So it's good getting into the nitty gritty style of it. Yeah, and I guess I'll see.
Can we sign off with a couple of predictions?
Oh,
what's the predictions? What do you got?
let's go through maybe the top 3 or 4 divisions. See what we think.
Just the 3 opens.
Yeah,
Well, I think men's open. I think Australia will walk the final more so than the Trans-Tasman. I think the Trans-Tasman was pretty close, but I think it's going to go the opposite way after World Cup.
I'm just worried. I haven't really had a big look at the New Zealand teams. I'm just really hoping that no one's pulled out based on the fact the next World Cup is in New Zealand. I hope they're not just saving themselves for that. If they're full strength, I think New Zealand might take the mixed.
The mixed, okay, interesting.
Because it's not uncommon for New Zealand to put all their effort into the mixed open. So if they do that, then they've probably got a good chance. I think if I had to pick New Zealand in one of those 3 divisions, I think they've got their best chance in mixed open.
Who do you think is going to take the men's open bronze medal?
England. Actually,
who do you
know what? I'm going to say New Zealand for that one.
Ooh.
I reckon we might get an upset.
You think England can make the final?
I think they can. I think they can. I'm not gonna bet on it, but I'm going to be a very happy told you so if they do. But look, I think if they're in a chance, like at home especially, I think they would have put so much effort into this campaign with their men's open.
Did you see their State Cup results?
Oh, at Australia.
They went to the State Cup, yeah. They failed to win a game.
Yep, they failed to win a game.
I think they're going to be another question. Lebanon and Philippines men's open. How do you think they're
huge?
There?
Don't know much about Philippines, and I don't know much about Lebanon. Okay. I don't even know where are they based in Lebanon? Because I know
they're West players, I think.
Yeah, okay. It's funny the England, they didn't win a game, but you watching them in the games that I saw, they were very competitive. But that Premier League men's team in our State Cup is just ridiculous. Like, it is just full on. We had like Singapore Women's Open, who I rate as a top 3 team or a top 4 team at least at the World Cup. They came and didn't win a game either in the Women's Open.
Yeah.
The thing is, the difference with the, like, you look at Doyleson, those guys the bulk of that team has been together for 10 years and they train rigorously together. And when you want a chance at winning a State Cup, you've got to train the house down. Where you look at Australia, like there's a group of players, a lot of them probably haven't played much together and they're only doing training camps.
Yeah.
As far as Australia goes, I think they're probably good enough to get around that and not affect him as much. I don't know what New Zealand's preparation's like, if it's the same sort of thing. I don't know. All I know is just from watching the Euros, England look like they're putting it together pretty good. New Zealand, I have a feeling they might put all their effort and their resources into the mixed open. So if they do that, then I think England are a bit of a smoky to get into the final.
That's interesting. As a World Cup medal for a European team would be massive for touch over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially on I guess it's one of the homes of the Euros as well. So I've always just said, as long as there's exposure for every nation, as long as every nation, it's to some degree gets some exposure, whether it's on the live stream or on the FIT media pages or anything like that, as long as we just get as much exposure for as many teams as possible, that would be great. I wouldn't even. I think England, did they win a division last year? Did they win a women's senior division or something?
World Cup.
Yeah, I think they might have.
World Cup or Euros?
No, World Cup.
The only European medal was a Scotland mixed open bronze, and then outside of that,
I think John's right here.
Maybe 35s.
Yeah, right.
But
Okay.
Scotland got a mixed open bronze in Malaysia 2019, and that was a pretty sharp team.
All I know is Australia. What I can say about Australia is because they were worried that people would not be able to afford the travel and the time away. If you're playing in or coaching in one of the 3 Opens divisions, your trip was funded. Because I know TFA, Touch Football Australia, they wanted the best players to play in the World Cup, so that was their way of doing it. And I think it's an awesome thing.
And back to your England point, the only game they lost in the 2019 World Cup was to Australia, but they drew with Japan, who then ended up ahead of them in the pool somehow. It must have been on scores of points.
And Japan in that period of time, they were coming over to our State Cup as well. And I've got one of the videos on my channel is in 2017 is Japan versus England, and I was actually in the grandstand watching that game, and it was a great game.
Yeah,
England
Steve Roberts, I think, was coaching Japan at the time.
It's hard for England too because they prepare for our State Cup in their winter, which is, I imagine, was very cold. And then they come over to Australia where the tournament's in 30 degrees Celsius, like 30 plus, with usually high humidity. So they get very sunburnt by the Sunday.
Where do you think Ireland Men's Open will finish, Tom?
Well, I don't really know. That's the thing. I don't know a lot about. So you're what, silver medalists at the Euros?
Yeah.
Is that right? I'm sorry, I'm just bringing up. Let me just quickly bring up the Men's Open.
What was What was your game against? What was the Men's Open game against France last year? Like, John, I forgot about what happened in that one. That quarterfinal, semi-finals. Yeah, Vichy. I remember that Nottingham game because that was one of the most stressful experiences of my life watching it.
No, the one it was
Vichy. What was?
I think we went straight to the finals, did we?
You might have got no, there was some.
So you need to get top 4 to make quarterfinals. I think you can do that. I think you can do top 4. I reckon top 3. I think you'll find the Cook Islands, the Men's Open, will be a very, very good team. A lot of them play in the Men's Premier League side at State Cup, and the team that they're with actually finished top 4. It was Doyleson that beat them, and it was Doyleson that beat them in the semi-final. So that was Northern Beaches Renegades.
They're the Northern Beaches Renegades, is it? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So that's sort of your Manly area.
Yeah.
And I can imagine Japan will be quite difficult. Singapore, I don't know too much about the men's side. I know more about the women's side of Singapore. Yeah.
Top 4 is definitely doable. And from my understanding, last time the Men's Open came, John, 19th in the World Cup?
12th. Oh, sorry, you're talking about Australia?
Yeah, and the last World Cup, where did the Irish Men's Open finish?
12th.
Was it 19th? 12th. 12th. I think you can beat that.
Oh, for
I
sure.
think they should be beating that now.
And I'm stoked that Mixed Open go to a top 16.
Yeah, same.
That's awesome.
Yeah, same.
Trying to finish top 2, and you got a pool of 7.
Going to 16 is lovely. Because last World Cup was a very, very tough time for that Mixed Open team. So it's going to be a huge improvement, hopefully, from us.
Yeah, that's good. All right, guys.
Okay, Tom.
Thanks for coming on. I'm going to have to call it quits here, guys. I'm going to go to bed. Got to wake up in about 6 hours.
So I've given you up so late.
No,
that's all good. It's all good. Used to it by now. Righty, guys.
We'll see you in Nottingham.
See you in Nottingham.
See you in Nottingham.
Cheers, boys.
Bye-bye.